हेलो आदाब
और
सियासत.com पर हमारे साथ आज सज्जाद शाहिद साहब मौजूद हैं. It's a cliche, but I would like to repeat it here. He needs no introduction. What happens is we say this and then we introduce. We say a few things. Sajjad Shahid is a brilliant civil engineer who has got involved in saving the city's architecture and other heritage. So now there is a major development in Hyderabad that Osmania General Hospital, which was built in 1918 or some year, he will give us the right year. That building is one of the few iconic buildings of Hyderabad. The previous government of KCR, TRS, wanted to demolish that building. There was a public uproar. And in the forefront of that opposition was Mr. Shahid, Sajjad Shahid. So I thought that it is better to find out that the new government of Mr. Revant Reddy has come up with a proposal which on the face of it looks brilliant, that the new Osmania General Hospital will be built at Gosha Mahal Stadium, which is vacant and which has a huge property. And traditionally, Gosha Mahal is again an iconic place in Hyderabad. So we all who supported the saving of Osmania General Hospital took a sigh of relief. Against that backdrop, I thought that it is better. This announcement has come only 2 days ago. So I thought that it is better to speak with the person who has been deeply involved in the campaign against the demolition or the proposed demolition of Osmania General Hospital. सज्जाद साहब, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका, आप तशरीफ लाए और you are welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure being with you.
Thank you, sir. आप as an opening remark, what would you like to say to start the discussion?
It's a wonderful news that we have received after a long, long time. It makes me happy. It also is a landmark moment for the protection of built heritage of Hyderabad, I think. And I also recall those dear friends who fought along with me, and some of them are no longer with us now.
Would you like to name them?
Yes, Dr. V.K. Bawa, of course, he was there.
Who is no more?
He was no more. Another three which I have lost, which we have lost as Hyderabad has suffered a lot because of their passing away, are the late Kulsum Reddy, Omim Dibara, and Mantosh Mandal.
Oh.
All three, if you look at the history of protection of Hyderabad's heritage.
Resistance of Hyderabad.
Yes.
Against demolitions.
Against demolitions, in favor of protection, preserving culture, heritage, have been in the forefront. Especially Kulsum Reddy, who was always willing, always supporting, and always ready to sign petitions and be the number one plaintiff. So wherever they are, I think they are also very happy with what has happened.
I'm sure. ये न्यूज़ मिल गई होगी सियासत के थ्रू उनको. जी. जी. I'm sorry, but that's how.
So मगर ये है कि साथ में अफसोस भी होता है कि we lose all our energy, all these good people, great people who wanted to preserve and protect our city's heritage and culture for future generation. All their energies are. A maximum portion of their energies is spent in fighting cases, trying to protect what is already protected instead of looking at other things like finding new, not new, but other which are non-protected assets which should be protected, looking at funding, doing some research work, highlighting them. All that is also important, but we tend to spend most of our energy in protecting what is already protected by law.
And which is in danger, which is in serious danger.
Yes.
Sir, give us some historical background to Osmania General Hospital.
Well, Osmania General Hospital is important in various ways. One thing is that it has become an icon of the identity of Hyderabad, along with a few other buildings. Other than that, cities evolve, cities develop, and one thing remains constant is that built heritage, monumental heritage, is the most immediately apparent facet of our past. For other things, you have to go to a museum to find, artifacts and manuscripts, or you have to go to libraries to look at, or to archives, or visit restaurants and eat there to find out about cuisine, which is, I think, the craze period.
Yeah.
But buildings are all around you. Anyone who comes to the city, the first thing about your history, your culture, your inherited heritage that impacts them is the architecture around you, the monumental architecture. So what happened is, at the beginning of the 20th century, there was a movement, a little before that, a movement has started in India, which was called the Indo-Saracenic. It started a little before that, but it gained momentum just around that turn of century. And we had a lot of buildings coming up which relied or which drew heavily on the architecture of India. Before that, the British, when the British were in power then, they were just importing
European
architecture. Now, for the first time, we had there's a long history of Indo-Saracen. I have not go into that, but it started in Jaipur with the Jaipur portfolio, or the first building in Chennai. You have a building in the late 18th century, but then the momentum that it gained momentum only when buildings, institutional buildings of the government of India, the British government, started being built in a style which borrowed heavily on the local architecture. The most iconic, first it started, most of it was inspired by Mughal India, because Mughal India was for them the culture that they had taken over from, and they wanted to lay claim through architectural linkages. So they tried to construct all sorts of things. The Victoria Memorial in Calcutta, it was touted as the empire's reply to the Taj Mahal. Everyone knew it was a joke then, and they know it is a joke now, but that was an attempt to try to show the Indians that we can do anything better than you lot. They failed miserably because the Indians said, oh, this is our architecture, you're doing it very well, and then the states, the princely states, everyone started supporting Indo-Saracenic. Most iconic buildings drew from Mughal architecture, but there was, towards this turn of the century, early 1900s, late 1800s and early 1900s, there was this trend, especially in Marathwada, Maharashtra region and Bombay Presidency then, and of course the southern states, to look at our own architectural inheritance. That is why you have beginning of the 1905, the first plans for the Bombay GPO come up, and it is an exactly replica of the Gol Gumbad of Bijapur. Then immediately after that, another architect, of course, they shaded, Beg and Whitted, they did the most of those buildings. So two buildings come up. One is the Museum, Prince of Wales Museum, which is now the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Museum. Both of them are almost replicas of Bijapur architecture. And when that happened, I think the southern states realized that this is also
we
possible.
have our own.
We have our own. So beginning, very tentative steps were taken in Mahbuli Pasha's reign when Osmania Ali Khan came into power. His Exalted Highness, there are so many facets of his personality that we have not yet fully understood. Everyone says he was a miser and all that. They don't realize that his miserliness was limited to his own personal indulgences. as far as the city of Hyderabad and the people of the Hyderabad, he never spared any expense. That is what he did when there was a chance for him immediately after the floods to reconstruct the city. He had only one rule. Whenever there was a proposal to do something, he said, who's the best in the world? And he said, get him at any cost.
Oh.
So we have numerous, we have Ravi Shankar coming in.
Yes.
Instead of the British. He said he's the best because the British have accepted that he is the authority. Why should I look at the British? Sure. British offered Mackenzie, offered the services of a lot of engineers. He said, no, this is the man who knows everything about the Deccan and its irrigation system. I'll call him. Similarly, when it came to what should be the architectural trend that Hyderabad should take, at that time, Victoria Memorial was being constructed. The empire's reply to the Taj Mahal. Incidentally, the resident architect there, Emerson was of course the main architect, but the person who was executing the job was a young dynamic chap named
We'll come back.
memory, Vincent Ash, sorry.
Vincent, okay.
Umar ke saath hai samajh aa raha.
Okay.
Vincent Ash was working on Victoria Memorial. And he was told, I'm sure the Nizam was told, that this is the guy who's doing the real work. Why get Emerson? Get him. He was brought over. And I'm sure Ash was such a person that he knew what he was doing. He was interested in the industrial arsenic. He was not very happy. Personally, that my evaluation is that he was not very happy with what was going on at Victoria Memorial. He said we should really appreciate and draw from the heart, and not just to make a statement. And I think that suited the purposes of Osmania Ali Khan. I said, here is an opportunity, and Ash went about creating 5 iconic structures for Hyderabad.
Like, what are they?
The first is Kachiguda Station.
Kachiguda Station.
I might be forgetting the chronology, but one is Kachiguda, second is the High Court, third is the City College, fourth is the Hyderabad Public School, and I think the final 1925 is when Osmania General Hospital was completed. So Osmania. These 5 buildings defined the trend of architecture thereafter in the city.
And
no other building could get away
And
from
you
that.
call it Osmanian.
I call it Osmanian because I have irrefutable proof that it could only be Osman Ali Khan who made that choice. There are various reasons, I won't go into that, except that Sir Nizam Jang was the secretary of the City Improvement Board for about 25 years or 30 years, I don't know, 3 years, forever. And he hated this modern architecture. He was very clear. Yeah, his own building, the Hill Fort, was purely classical European. Castle ke waisa hai wo. So he didn't like this. He's on record saying that in his book, which was put together by Zahir Ahmed, Lives Yesterdays. He states that this is horrible, referring to the new Nampally station. He said, such a beautiful old building has been pulled down and this new building in this style has been brought in. So he was not very happy. Despite that, this style prevailed, which means only a power superior to him could have ruled on that. And that superior power would have been Osman Ali Khan. HEH would have been personally interested in what was happening to the city. So that is one. The second is, despite being very imposing, very prominent, very appealing, these buildings are, if you compare it to the ornate style which prevailed earlier, they are Spartan. So Osman Ali Khan was clear, provide the best of facilities, best buildings, the best architect, but do not spend unnecessarily on embellishment. Make it minimum. So all these buildings are, except where linted, of course. Of course, the main portal of the High Court had to be like the Baland Darwaza. That there was a reason behind that. But the City College, it's only the structural elements which give you the whole embellishment. There's no additional superficial minimum. Hyderabad Public School is the best example, I think, of Osman Ali Khan's attitude towards life itself, I think. So this was the culmination of that. No other building in Hyderabad after that could get away from that stamp of Vincent, including Osmania University, although that was a Belgian architect who came in.
Yeah.
But if you look at that, it is different, but it is not so alien that you would not identify it as a part and parcel of the canvas
Of the Deccan of Hyderabad.
So we were inspired by the Qutub Shahis, and in those days, Hyderabad state also had Gulbarga, also had Bidar.
Bidar,
In it.
you
So
know,
there
with
are
excellent
elements from
architects.
these regions. So from Baimani to Qutub Shahi, Adil Shahi to the later developments, all are, brought together very pleasantly in this form of architecture. That is why it is a very important building. Apart from the present government is talking about the beautification of the Musi riverfront.
No, sorry, we will talk about Osmania Hospital. Was there any other reason for Osmania Hospital to be built there?
There already was a hospital there, the Afzalganj Hospital, which was washed away. Most of it was washed away in the floods.
1908.
Yes.
Okay.
So this had to be constructed.
Okay.
But then you see.
So it was rebuilt into a different monument itself.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was built on the state-of-the-art hospital of its time.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Much ahead of its time.
Okay.
I think it remained relevant till our memory.
Yeah, sure.
Before the corporate hospitals came in, that was the hospital.
Even the rich people used to go and get treated.
Everyone used to go.
Even the rich people.
But then you must realize that Osman Ali Khan, Aish, and everyone in the administration was very conscious of not destroying what was existing, like we are talking today of destroying. We were talking, thankfully, of destroying Osmania General Hospital to construct a new hospital. When Osmania was being constructed, it was not laid out along the riverbank. Why? For the simple reason there was an existing garden there.
Yeah.
Which has to be restored. So they were respecting the garden and the green space and not having the hospital there, and it was behind that. It was only in the 80s or 90s, I think, in the time of Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, that entrance was put in from the riverbank side.
Yeah. Okay.
VIP entrance. It bisects the old historic garden. So all sorts of funny things have happened before Mr. KCR. Mr. KCR was unique because he wanted to destroy everything. Every building you name, he wanted to destroy. Osmania General Hospital, Iram Manzil, you name it, and he said we have to demolish it. So it is grateful that we should be grateful that at least that has changed now.
Amazing, thing which comes out of the character of KCR is that he was more Hyderabadi than Chandrasekhar Reddy, Rajshekhar Reddy and Naidu compared to them. And still this gentleman was against the architecture. And finally when he built Secretariat, he borrowed it from the... What kind of a person was he?
इस घर को आग लग गई घर के चिराग से. Tragedy तो यही थी अयूब साहब. We were fighting things. We said these people are alien, they don't know Hyderabad, they don't know Telangana, they don't know our culture. Now we have a person who knows our culture and he's here. The first thing he did, comes and does was he abolish the protected list. He never reconstitutes the heritage committee. And he goes about doing
even today it is not there.
Even today it is not there.
How many years now? 10, 12 years?
12. Yeah.
We don't have an heritage committee.
We don't have an heritage committee. There is supposed to be something called a heritage committee, but that is not the heritage committee for the city as it is supposed to be. Mr. KCR very craftily brought in an act amending the old archaeological act, and he said there will be a committee, all of them will be government officers, there will be only 2 experts. Until now they have not found those 2 experts. And I'm sure they will not find
They will
true
not
experts
find.
because no true experts can agree to these idiotic schemes.
Sir, how do you look at the Revanth Reddy's decision?
Well, I'm happy because of a number of things. One is, of course, he's the final authority now in power in the government. He's taken that decision. But even beyond that, it was a promise of the Congress in their manifesto. Not just once, but two places it is mentioned that specifically that they'll save Osmania, they will not let it demolish. So I think
So he has kept his word.
They fulfilled their promise. And it contrasts with the promises made by KCR.
Yeah,
I remember very clearly, he said the metro rail will pass in front of the secretariat, in front of the assembly only over my dead body. And when that did pass,
He was still alive.
he was still alive, and I
he was
said
not
we should
dead.
hold a condolence meeting there.
Oh my
In
God.
the gun park. No one turned up except me. I was standing there for some time. I said he must be dead because he made a promise to us and he's a Telangana beta.
Yeah.
And we always honor our promises. So thankfully the Congress government has honored its promises, manifesto. Apart from that, I think Congress has a history of being for heritage protection and conservation. You should remember that it was the Congress, it was very specifically Mr. Rajiv Gandhi under whom this whole process first got kick-started. Intact itself, founding of Intact.
Oh, it was during his time?
During
Okay.
Rajiv Gandhi's time.
Is Intact working in Hyderabad?
Yes,
the chapter?
it is
the chapter?
It is working in Hyderabad.
Okay.
Anuradha Reddy is the convener. I am the co-convener there.
Okay.
But then, as I said, most of our energies are spent in defending what is already protected. So, आगे क्या करें?
सही.
तो यहाँ से आगे बढ़ना चाहिए ना. We should be doing things like encouraging people, providing them assistance, providing that is our mandate. We do that other places. We have done it here also in certain
Sir,
places.
would you mind highlighting the existence, architectural beauty of Osmania General Hospital?
As I
What
told
are the
you,
things? What are the things which you like?
As I told you, it is, it draws the whole 5 building and other buildings after that. These buildings were the basis on which the whole architectural character of Hyderabad evolved thereafter. Mozamjai Market, the Unani Hospital, and numerous other the buildings in the public gardens, all of them are
Darushifa.
all of them.
Yeah.
All of them draw on that same architecture. They were not done by Ash. They were done by state architects. They were done by other architects. But once the mold was set, they had to follow.
Okay.
And that is why these 5, because they are done by one of the greatest architects of the Indo-Saracenic later period, who contributed a lot, not only in Hyderabad but all over India. So that is the main importance. Yeah. And of course, if you look at it, there's no, as I told you, no unnecessary embellishment there. Architectural design is superb. It is one of the most well ventilated buildings. In the peak of summers, it remains cool. It has those high ceilings, all those designs. We have also expanded the hospital, Look at the additions that they've done, those ugly, ghastly additions, the Silver Jubilee block behind, the additions to the left. Could that have been, monumental buildings need to be monumental. Public buildings need to spend more, not on square footage. 1000 rupees square feet, 1200 rupees square feet, ये आप अपना घर बनाए तो सोचिए. When you are talking about monumental architecture which impacts the identity of a city, the identity of the people, their cultural heritage, where their whole inherited past is, reflected, they should be on a scale and of a type which either are a continuity, or if they break, then they have to be a reason to justify that break.
Sir, I remember in the museum, Silver Jubilee Museum of the Nizam, they have the scissors and also the replica of Osmania General Hospital. and it was inaugurated by that scissors by Duru Shehwar, who was the daughter-in-law, first daughter-in-law of the last Nizam. Now, when we are looking at the new building coming up, what are your expectations? What do you want there as an architect, as an Hyderabadi? What are the elements that should be incorporated in the new building?
Hey,
I'm just talking about the architecture.
when Osmania was built, it was beyond state of the art. We expect that by today's standard, this should be beyond state
Fine.
of the art.
What about architecture?
Architecture, because if it is not in the close park, even if it is in the close, there are difference, If you add something near a heritage building, my personal view, there are two opinions in the conservation world also. Some say that it should follow the design of the old. I do not agree with that. If you look at the Louvre in Paris, the new addition, the pyramid, is in direct contrast to the old architecture.
Yeah, that's right.
I believe in that. You should be clearly, even the layman should clearly be able to identify that this is a later addition.
But how different it should be from the old?
Personally, I feel it should be such that it fades into the background. It does not interfere. It does not distract from the old building. Now, there was this proposal. This whole thing started somewhere in before 2011, if I remember. 2011, for the first time, the Heritage Committee, the application came from the Health Department that we want to change this and construct something. Proposal came. Till 2013, which was the last time there was a Heritage Committee, we are still debating it. We had reached a decision wherein a proposal had been made. I think it was Shetara Associates, Surinaran Murthy, whose proposal had come in with a building behind the Osmania Hospital in that space to take care of the modern day needs. There was a debate. Half of the Heritage Committee said that the new building constructed behind should be in the same style of architecture, but it should not be higher than the old building, which was itself limiting the scope of the new construction. My opinion was that it should be a tower with glass facade to reflect the sky, and apparently nothing would have happened. It would have been a backdrop reflecting this old building.
Okay.
That was my opinion. But I was, I think, in the minority there. But then I said, okay, if there is going to be lower than the height of the old building, we have no problems. But I'm not against a huge structure coming behind, even if it is higher than, as long as it doesn't distract from the old building. It should not follow the line. Now, we have had a very bad experience, which people don't realize, but if you look at it calmly, you know the Taramati Baradari?
Yeah.
It was a small pavilion on a hillock.
Yeah.
They built a whole complex below, which is in the same style. Now, today still we are alive, I'm sure you also know, but after our generation, there will come a time when a layman who comes there will think that the lower portion has also been constructed by the Qutub Shahis. No, I'm not.
Yeah. That's
That
right.
should not be there. Old should be old, very clearly distinguishable from it. Any intervention, any addition that comes in should not clash, should not overpower the presence of the old.
It should be a judicial mix of the old and the new.
Yeah, but then you have to be able to clearly identify that this is new and that is old.
Yeah, okay.
Even a layman should be able to identify that. That is my opinion personally.
सज्जाद साहब बेइंतहा शुक्रिया, आप तशरीफ लाए, आपने वक्त दिया, और मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि हम जिस तरीके से इसका प्लान आएगा और इस पे प्रोग्रेस होगा, क्योंकि ये चाहते हैं कि 4 साल में इसको मुकम्मल कर लें, 3-4 साल में अगर कर लेते हैं, या जो भी प्रोग्रेस होता है, हम इस पर और भी इस मौजू पर बात करते रहेंगे।
करते हैं, कई चीज़ें बात करनी है, खुद लोकेशन पे बात करनी है, we have to discuss how appropriate the location is and what is going to happen to the old historic structure that is neglected there, the Baradari, the palace is gone. But then that stadium itself was very important. I remember till my childhood, the Nizam's Gold Cup used to be held there.
Yes, lots
And Hyderabad produced some of the greatest football players, and all of them played there in that field.
Yes,
So we are losing that.
Yes,
So that is another aspect of heritage which is going. It was with the police, and of course, at one point of time, Hyderabad police and then later AP police was the greatest football team.
Yeah,
one
they
of the
had
greatest
wonderful.
team. We had Rahim Saab leading them, and we had, more than I think 60% or almost 70% of the Indian team going to
From
Olympics were
Hyderabad.
from Hyderabad. So all these things
Yeah,
are
that's
there.
definitely.
And of course, then there's the whole process of there being multiple reports in support, and only one report saying that it is not safe, the JNTU report, and even there it doesn't say demolish, it says even if it's restored, it will last more than 5 years, and that report itself is now I think 10 years
5
old.
years. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being with us.
Thank you, sir. It was a
And,
pleasure.
We'll meet again.